You're listening to the Geek Watch Podcast, Episode 18, with trailers that we saw and didn't see, plus a triple shot of What the Dead.
This is the Geek Watch Podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to Episode 18 of the Geek Watch Podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hey, Brian, 18. Now we could buy cigarettes.
True.
And we could vote. We could go to war and die for our country.
Yep, and we are back. It's been 2 weeks.
It has. Some crazy things have been happening with us, have they not, Brian?
A plague on both our houses.
A plague on both our houses.
But it's good to be back.
It is. We have both been ill.
Yes.
With different things. I believe you had the flu.
Well, I was taking care of somebody with the flu. So, and
Yes.
then you wound up with
Pneumonia.
during your performance.
During a production. Mm-hmm.
Of Robin Hood. Stuck with it. Mm-hmm. No problems there.
This was a performance where I had to sing.
Yes, you had to sing and play the lute.
And have pneumonia at the same time.
Yeah, you opened and closed. So there's dedication, folks. That's the way that works. But of course, with us being sick and dealing with sickness, that knocked us out a couple of weeks. However, we are back to give you a triple shot of What the Dead. Yes. So that we're going to have a lot to talk about because we're going to talk about 3 shows. But before we get to that, let's talk about some of the trailers that have popped up the last couple of weeks. First of all, of course, the trailer that broke the internet, the
Infinity War.
Infinity
War, yes.
And that's going to be to promote the early ticket sales, which began breaking all kinds of records, highest opening ticket sales, beating even Black Panther. Although with Wakanda and Black Panther being Act 3 of Infinity War, at least it seems to be from looking at the trailers, certainly that's no knock on Black Panther. In fact, I have a feeling that a lot of the ticket sales are being bolstered by the strong showing that Black Panther has had in the theater. In fact, this week is the first week that Black Panther was not number 1.
Wow.
It's been number 1 since it started.
So what beat it this week?
Pacific Rim.
Oh, I didn't know that was coming out, Brian. Wow.
Yeah, the new Pacific Rim movie. Although I have to say, it didn't beat it by much, which tells you something. There have been a lot of movies I thought might have been able to knock Black Panther off that number 1 spot. And I would have thought it would have been a movie that had maybe a bit stronger showing. But to be honest, if this movie had gone up against Black Panther any other week, probably wouldn't have knocked it out of the top spot.
Yeah.
But Black Panther's been doing extremely well, obviously. And still making money.
You know what? I think people might just be ready for more. I know I'm ready for more Princess Shuri, so bring on Infinity War for me. And
there'll certainly be a lot of that. Shuri showed up in the trailer.
Yes.
Which was really exciting because I have a feeling that the gem she was looking at in the hologram was the Soul Stone.
Right.
And so it seems that the Soul Stone, the last stone, is going to be the last stone for Thanos to get. Right. And so from the trailer, it looks like he's managed to pick up the Power Stone from the Nova Corps. He'll go after the Space Stone that's in the Tesseract. And there's that moment where you see him smashing the Tesseract to get the stone. And so obviously the next stones to get will be the Time Stone, which is in the eye of Agamotto, the Mind Stone, which is in the forehead of Vision, and then finally the Soul Stone, and that should be...
That'll complete the glove. Now, you were telling me something interesting that I didn't know about, that in the comics, Thanos was doing all of this to impress his girlfriend.
Yeah, he wanted to basically to become the consort to death itself.
And he has a crush on her, and he wants to impress her.
Exactly.
So, but in this movie, in the cinematic universe, they've given him, I guess, a little bit more duty. Maybe he feels like he has a duty to the... to the universe.
It's interesting because they kind of give him a backstory similar to Jor-El in Superman, which is he sees a catastrophe coming on with his planet, Titan. Thanos discovers that there's a catastrophe coming that's going to destroy the entire planet unless they're able to eliminate some of the life on that planet. They have to kind of thin things out. They're kind of in the same situation that we're here on Earth, and overpopulation and that sort of thing. So what happens is they ignore him, and this catastrophe happens and his planet is destroyed. He is the last of the Titans. And so he sees that this catastrophe is spreading throughout the galaxy, and the only way that he knows to save the universe is to eliminate half of the life in the universe. And by doing that, he'll be able to save the rest of it. And so
they've given him this kind of sort of noble goal in his own mind, a noble goal.
So you understand why he's doing it. It's not just that I'm trying to impress this really gothy girl. And so he has that motivation, and of course the power of the Infinity Stones will give him the ability to do that. There's not a villain in the Marvel Universe that's had as many years as Thanos has had in developing this character since the first Avengers movie. When we first saw Thanos, of course, in the post-credits, and then seeing bits of him in other post-credits of the second Avengers movie. He was in the post-credits, and of course he shows up in Guardians of the Galaxy.
And I've been saying it for, over a year now, that I'm worried about this movie just becoming an absolute mess, a Hieronymus Bosch painting where there's just way too much to take in and with too many characters and everything. But the trailer really helped me out with it, getting in those little jokes, those little digs, and love the fact that Cumberbatch and Downey are going to be in this together, the two Sherlocks.
Oh yeah, that's going to be fun to watch. And I mean, there's going to be a lot of great moments in the movie, definitely, and I'm certainly looking forward to it. And of course now we're getting it a little bit early, so we'll get the end of April. Part of that had to do with that they didn't want to have this movie bumping up against Solo.
Right.
But there's another movie that's going to be appearing about the same time that I'm also looking forward to seeing, which of course is Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2, yeah.
And we see another trailer. We saw a trailer for Deadpool 2. Deadpool was the leader of X-Force, Cable being the other leader. Now, I don't know how much you know about Cable, but he is...
I know that he is the son of Jean Grey and Scott Summers coming back from the future.
Son. Exactly.
Thought so.
And a very powerful mutant. And what I really like about the Deadpool trailer is you get a lot of the flavor of what we're going to see, but it doesn't give anything away. I mean, all that we know is there's this mutant kid that...
Kind of Terminator, isn't it?
Well, kind of a Terminator situation.
Yeah,
the Cable's
come back in time.
Cable's
kill
trying
this kid.
Yeah, Cable's trying to kill this child. There was a reshoot because they wanted to bring in a secret cameo. And there's been a lot of guessing about who that might be. I can't wait to see who that is. There's a lot of talk that it's going to be Patrick Stewart. He's coming in as Professor X. And you do see in the trailer Deadpool in Professor X's wheelchair doing doing spinnies, doing donuts. And, it could be Hugh Jackman. There's been a lot of talk about maybe Hugh Jackman coming in and doing a small bit, which would be fun. But... whoever it's going to be, they didn't want to tell anybody. They said, "Oh, this is too good. We can't tell you."
Wow.
Now, since we are talking about trailers, I wanted to bring this up for a moment. There has been some talk online that we haven't gotten an Aquaman trailer yet.
Oh, well, it doesn't come out until December.
Exactly.
It's pretty early.
James Wan came out, and he explained that the reason he hadn't put a trailer out yet was that this is a movie that has a great deal of special effects that need to be put in.
Oh, yeah, it better.
And he doesn't really have right now enough good scenes to put a trailer together. And he doesn't want to put a trailer out unless it's perfect. He wants it to be absolutely great. And I certainly get that, especially with Warner Brothers right now. They can't afford to have a really crappy looking trailer and people seeing that and going on.
And automatically,
I don't
even want to give it a chance.
Exactly. Yeah. But on top of that, with everything that we've just been talking about, with Deadpool, with Avengers, Infinity War coming out, you throw a trailer in the middle of that, it's just going to get lost in the shuffle.
Right.
People are not going to remember it. And if you're going to release this trailer, you definitely want to release it at a time where the movie's not that far off, but also that it'll be able to bolster the excitement for the movie. Going. Because it desperately needs it, because the DC movies have been making less and less money as they've been going along, and they really need a solid movie to turn the franchise around, because with all the talk of Shazam and the costume and people hating the heck out of it.
Oh, that's sad. Come on,
well,
Chuck.
I think one of the biggest problems with the costume is they rushed this movie to such a degree that, and I forget who the actor is who's playing Shazam.
It's Chuck.
They rushed this movie and they didn't really give him enough time to hit the gym and work out and build up. And so this costume has a lot of fake muscle on it, which looks terrible. I mean, it looks so bulky. It looks so goofy. I mean,
It looks like the Sky High
Right.
uniforms, which I loved Sky High, and I will sing its praises, as the day is long. I loved Sky High.
but the problem is, there's a reason why they have these actors work so hard and build up muscle mass to play these heroes, because natural muscle, there's a movement to it. As you're moving your arm, your biceps swell up at certain points, they expand at certain points. If you just make a latex muscle, it doesn't do that. It obviously looks fake. And it makes the costume look really bulky and
Looks
really
like a
fake.
doll.
Yeah, it looks like an action figure. And
If that's what they're going for, cool. I don't know if it is what they're going
well,
for.
I wouldn't think that'd be a good idea to go for something like that.
Okay.
You want the character to look real. You don't want him to look fake. You want him to look like he actually has those muscles, because it's one of those moments that it'll take you out of the movie if you're like, this is obviously a fake costume. These are obviously fake muscles. It'll completely take people out of the movie, and that's going to be a problem. Because the thing about it is, here's the problem. If Black Adam, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he's not going to need padded muscles. He's definitely got enough muscle of his own that he can fill out a superhero costume or a villain costume. And the problem is, if you put The Rock with real muscles next to that costume with fake muscles, it's going to look even worse, because it's going to be really obvious at that point that the muscles are fake. And so hopefully they're going to be able to fix this in some aspect, but that costume has really put them... So many people have complained about it, and I can understand why, because, it looks fake as all get out. It's pretty bad. And so with that said, now we're off to What the Dead.
What the Dead, yes.
We
got
a triple shot of What the Dead.
3 episodes to cover here.
So
so forgive me if I get the episodes mixed up, guys.
we are.
kind of going in on-
We're not gonna lie to you. We got cheat sheets,
Yes.
and so because there is a lot of stuff going on. So the first one, Dead or Alive or, and of course we start out with the people who are fleeing from Alexandria, having to cut through the woods. We have Daryl and Rosita and Tara and Sadiq, but we also have Dwight in tow. And there's a lot of issues of
tension.
A lot of tension
with Tara and
Dwight.
Yeah.
Well, Dwight killed her girlfriend.
Yeah.
So she's not all that happy with him. So there's a lot of this tension, and Dwight tells him that there's this shortcut. The saviors aren't going to be looking for him because it's too dangerous.
Right. Stay out of the swamp.
Tara makes a point, then why are we going through there? It's like, because it's the only way through. And this is going to be something that I've said a few times, and I think as we go through these episodes, I'm going to be saying it more than once, because although I am a fan of the show, I mean, I'm willing to admit when the show goes off the rails or it does something that I don't think is effective. And one problem that I've seen, and again, it's going to be something that's going to be something we're going to see in more than one of these episodes, is that we seem to have different characters having the same conversation over and over again. And we're having this conversation in the woods with Tara about who can we trust, who can we not trust. But then we go up to the hilltop, and now we have Maggie
and Michonne having the exact
we have Maggie.
conversation. Yes.
Yeah, we're having the same issues with who do we trust, who do we don't trust, and they keep arguing the same point over and over and over again, and that can get really boring and get very redundant, and they need to kind of move on and start talking about some other things. But Tara decides she's going to kill Dwight and leads him out into the woods and shoots at him, and of course he has to run off, but they run into some saviors.
Yes.
And Dwight basically
sacrifices himself.
Yeah.
Going back to where he hates, and just to keep the Alexandrites safe and steer them away from them.
But, and this is something else that in a sense kind of gave me a little bit of issues with this episode, was Dr. Carson and Father Gabriel.
Oh my goodness, Brian. I mean, we have talked over and over again about Deus Ex Machina and how much I want, the God in the machine to come in and fix it so Carl comes back to life. You talk about Deus Ex Machina in an episode, that's their entire journey was just God in the machine, Brian.
Yeah, I mean,
every turn
it was like
took.
Constantly, over and over again, it was like, oh, God's going to help us here. It's like they find the house. They find the antibiotics for Gabriel's for sickness.
Here's the key to the car.
Here's the key to the car. Here's
just too
convenient. Yeah, tons of it. Father Gabriel, who can barely see, is able to shoot the.
Yeah, it's not even subtle.
Yeah, and they're constantly doing that over and over again. And the problem with it is, one, they just ran that thing into the ground. But ultimately, what they did was they did all that so that everything could go south.
They could just punch you right in the gut.
So they could just basically say, and so that Father Gabriel, after all these moments of, it's like God was working overtime, giving them breaks. Dr. Carson gets shot, he dies.
Right in the face.
Gets shot in the face, and Father Gabriel is captured, and suddenly now he's got this loss of faith, which is another problem that I've been having with Walking Dead recently, is that you have these characters that keep vacillating between one thing or the other.
Their own convictions and...
Yeah, Father Gabriel going back and forth with, he's a man of faith, he's a man that's lost his faith, he gets his faith back. It's just like he just goes between these two poles, and nothing really kind of changes for him. And Rick's been doing the same thing with, he's a bad guy, he's a good guy, he's a bad guy. And
let's do this for our future. No, let's kill them all. Let's make this work. Nope, it won't work. We got to kill them all.
Yeah, and I think that can get kind of boring after a while, is that when you have a character that vacillates, that doesn't really grow out of it, they don't seem like they've learned.
Oh, you know who seems
lessons.
to be the worst about it is Morgan. What?
Yeah.
Jeez, is he Crazy Morgan? Because that's fine. Crazy Morgan was cool. Or is he Zen Morgan? Zen Morgan's cool too. But dude, pick a side. Be crazy or be Zen.
Of course, we had that moment where he went all Michael Myers on Gavin. And he's starting to see, maybe that some of the stuff he's been doing has some consequences to it. But, again, it's just like he seems, like you say, he's going back and forth between these, whether he's badass, crazy, can kill anybody Morgan, to peace-loving, I don't want to hurt anybody Morgan. And he keeps going back and forth and back and forth. Because you remember, he started out with, his big problem was he couldn't shoot his wife, even though she had turned into a zombie. He couldn't kill her. And then he went to, I can kill everybody.
Because now my son's dead.
So he kind of vacillates back and forth, but you kind of want characters that, maybe they're exploring certain, different sides of their personality, but you want to feel like eventually they learn a lesson. That at least that the struggle that they're going through, that they're pulling lessons from both sides, and that they're not just playing a game of ping pong with the kind of way that they do things. So, and of course, we end up with Eugene at the end, who is still working with the Saviors, although it's pretty obvious that he's playing both sides. Is he the good guy? Is he the bad guy? And it turns out that he inadvertently gives Negan the idea about putting the zombie guts on the weapons to
spread the virus.
From there, we go on to the key.
Yes, the key, where we're introduced to Georgie. Yes, the clean, very diplomatic.
She seems like what the situation was in Alexandria. Somebody that maybe she's not too naive, because she does talk about that she's seen some groups that, that there are more bad groups like the Saviors than there are good groups. And so I guess she's basically out there taking a tally, but obviously she hasn't knocked on the Savior's door. At all, and I wonder if she's going to.
Well, there's one major problem that I have with Georgie, Brian, is that she won't accept spoken word records, and that upsets me, because George Carlin is hilarious and his records are really funny, so she should change her policy on music only.
Well, maybe she's got plenty of them, I don't know. But that's just not her thing. But of course, the name of the show being The Key, which is Georgie gets some albums and gives Maggie this book of
medieval plans and architecture and blueprints
for aqueducts and things like that,
windmills,
which, as somebody who's read the comics, it seems to me like that this is a moment very similar to why they killed Carl, why they got Simon pushing forward on a lot of things, is that what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the communities fast forwarded, because in the comics it took them 5 or 6 years to get all this, to be able to build all this technology, and they're kind of giving them the cheat codes to do this quickly so that they can go ahead and get to that part of the story without doing a jump. But I will say this. Again, we run into this issue about, now we have Enid who's doing the same. Now it's her turn to have that talk with, can we trust him? Can we not trust him? So once again, we have new characters who are having the same conversation. And so for me, it's like, here we go again. The same, we have kind of the same talk going on over and over again. And I don't know if Georgie's going to turn around and wind up betraying them in the end. It's a possibility, as we just say, because we don't know a whole lot about her. But I don't know, because it seems like I don't think we're going to see her for a while. She said, you're not going to see me for a whole while. I think they're basically setting up for something farther on down the road, but I don't know how much farther down the road. But of course, the big thing that happened in this episode, of course, was Negan versus Rick in the catacombs.
Oh, the flaming Lucille. Oh yeah, where Rick suddenly shoots like a stormtrooper. Cannot 5 feet in front of him, he cannot make the shot.
No. So he basically ran out of bullets, and then it turned into a big fight among a bunch of walkers. And what we expected was going to happen happened, which was Rick, who was taunting Negan about his great world order. It's like, well, is that why you killed all the garbage people? And
now he knows.
And now Negan knows. And I did think that when Negan escaped, he was going to show back up and he was going to give Simon the what for. But turns out no.
Nope.
Because the big monster that Rick created comes to bite Negan on the butt. Jadis.
Yeah, pretty much it's Simon and Rick's fault that Negan just got kidnapped.
But this is the other thing I'm wondering about. Are we supposed to care that Negan's in trouble?
Yeah, it's a bit confusing. I'm interested in what happens, and Negan's a great villain. Seeing in the previews, Jadis has got him tied up to a dolly.
Yeah.
And not even an upright dolly like Hannibal Lecter gets. No, he gets the dolly that the mechanics lay on, and she's dragging him around the garbage dump.
There's talk about next week's episode that there's going to be some revelations, some of the things that Simon had suggested that Jadis knew about what the junkyard actually was, that we're going to kind of get an idea about this coming weekend. So I guess we'll see how that turns out. Of course, now we have Simon who's taken over.
Yeah, that's...
And Simon's view on everything is kill them all, let God sort them out. And so as he leads everyone off to Hilltop to do some damage, of course, then the week after that, last weekend, do not send us astray.
Yes.
Which was all fighting all the time. So most of what we see there is tied into the Hilltop.
It's all Hilltop.
And again, we run into the situation where now we have Morgan who's being haunted by Gavin.
Yep, we got Crazy Morgan again.
We got Crazy Morgan again. So now he's going back to having crazy visions and hallucinations. Which I wonder how that's...
This is the season of hallucinations. You know, we had all of Carl's visions, and now even when Morgan was freaking crazy after his wife and after his son, he wasn't having crazy visions like this. Now everyone seems to be having crazy visions. I would even say Gabriel's having the crazy visions, going loopy and feverish and sick and blind. And
yeah, so we have Morgan who's trying to be helpful, but of course Gavin keeps telling him, you know what this is. Something obviously is going on, but we have the Saviors attacking Hilltop at night, which I'm not sure why they did that. They have numbers only because it gives the Hilltop a chance. So I'm wondering if that was a convenient plotting going on.
Or showing how Simon is not...
That he's not a good leader.
He's not a good leader. He's not qualified for this. He should have waited until you had the higher ground, you had an advantage, instead of just going in.
Going back to your point, when the shooting stops, after a whole lot of fighting goes on, we have Simon leading everybody in, because he's assuming that since the shooting has stopped, that they've run off again. And then they get plowed and get chased off. But unfortunately, their tainted weapons takes a horrible toll. And so when everybody's sleeping together, some of them start turning, including Tobin, which, of course, we hadn't seen him for a little while. We saw him in little bits and pieces. The whole thing with Tobin being the reason why Carol ran off, because he had feelings for her and she wasn't ready to deal with that.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't want him to get hurt. And, of course, what happens is he gets stabbed. He turns pretty quickly. He turns, and, of course, Carol has to stab him in the head and kill him. Although I have to say there were some people who were stabbed that didn't turn so quickly, and I'm not sure why that is. The other problem, too, is, and this is out of the comics, but they kind of changed it, Tara gets shot by Dwight. It looks like in an attempt to keep her from catching a brain pan full of lead from Simon.
Right.
But the thing is, they know how she got injured. They know that Dwight shot her. They're wondering, did he betray her? And at the same time, well, the Saviors have been treating their weapons with zombie guts. Are they going to kill off Tara thinking, well, she's going to turn anyway?
She's a time bomb, yep.
And she says, I don't want to live this way. Go ahead and kill me. Dwight didn't treat any of his crossbow bolts. Because he wasn't trying to kill anybody like that. Now, but here's the thing, too, and this is something I should have mentioned when we were talking about the last episode, the key. What I thought was interesting, and I was kind of curious about how Dwight was going to go, because the truth is, all that he cares about is Negan going away. But he knows that if that happens, if the Hilltop and Alexandria is successful, he's going to die. And he admitted, he said, I know how this ends for me. He's accepted that fate. He figures that that's the price he's just going to have to pay to get rid of Negan. Now, after what happened with Negan disappearing, after Rick attacking him and everything, and now Simon's running everything, if he believes Negan's been killed, Negan is gone. And so the best bet for him is for the Saviors to take back over and to deal with this issue. Things kind of go back the way they are. He gets his revenge on Negan, but he didn't have to die.
Mm-hmm. So the shift in his loyalty,
it was his best.
Surprising, but
no, it wouldn't be surprising because he's getting what he wants. He wanted Negan gone. Well, Negan's gone, and so the way that he's able to go on without dying is for Simon's leading of the Saviors to win. But in this episode of Do Not Send Us Astray, we find out that's not good enough for Dwight. Something has changed in his personality. It's not just getting rid of Negan anymore. That he has kind of changed in his loyalties. That it's not just about, hey, I got to get rid of Negan. You guys are the best bet to do this. There's something more going on there. Dwight's motivations have changed. And for all the time that I've been talking about, these last 3 episodes, you have characters that are kind of stuck in a rut of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, or having the same conversations over and over again. But look at Dwight. Dwight is developing.
Getting a good arc there.
He's getting a really good arc there. So the show, when it works, it definitely works. And it's not that this is a problem that they're having across the board. Because obviously the issues that are going on with Dwight right now, very interesting. And you're definitely seeing a lot of character development. Where we're not in some of our more standard characters, maybe not so much. But hopefully, as these episodes come along, we'll see some development. I don't think we're going to see that much in Morgan. And the reason I say that is because I think that the mindset that he's in now, that he's developing now, is going to be what drives his character when he goes over to Fear the Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think they're really kind of setting up the stage for that.
Okay. In the previews for next week, noticing that we hadn't known up until now that we thought, or I thought at least, that Simon left Jadis alive on purpose. And it turns out it wasn't that way, that she hid and she put blood on herself and she played dead. And they actually thought that she was dead when the Saviors left the junkyard.
Yeah.
So now Simon, who thinks Negan's dead, thinks Jadis is dead. That is going to be something big. When that revelation happens, it's going to be amazing.
Who knows what's going to happen at this point? Because we got next week. And then I think we've got next week, the week after that, and then the third week is going to be the season finale, which is going to be played in movie theaters. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Fathom Events, every once in a while they'll do TV show stuff. They'll do like Doctor Who or something like that. But they are
I've
doing
seen the Doctor Who ones. Yeah.
So they're doing a double feature. Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to do the season finale of The Walking Dead, followed by the season opener of Fear the Walking Dead.
Ah, very neat.
So you got that double shot. And so that should do it for this week. It's good to get caught up. Just wanted to remind all you Geek Watchers out there, whether you listen to us on Facebook or SoundCloud, YouTube, or iTunes, we want your comments, we want your suggestions, post them and however that you listen to us. And don't forget to subscribe, and if you're on YouTube, click the notification button so you'll know when we put up new content. And so, until next time, for Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher reminding you that we're all geeky about something. Be proud of your geek. See you next time.